Hi guys, welcome to the very first podcast for ADHD Ireland, hosted by me, Lauren McBride, or Her Thoughts in Bright Colours on Instagram. I hope we're all well. Over the course of this podcast, we're going to discuss all aspects of ADHD in an honest way, as we have lived with ADHD our whole lives. Some of us were diagnosed sooner than later, and some of us aren't diagnosed formally at all. This gives a wide variety of experiences from all different perspectives. Please listen at your own discretion, as we are coming from a place of personal experiences. Some topics may be sensitive to listeners, so please be advised that our opinions and lives may not directly correlate with your experiences living with ADHD. During these podcasts, people living with ADHD or who have experience with ADHD in their familial, platonic, or romantic relationships will be joining me over Zoom. Thank you to everyone who is and will be involved. We couldn't do it without you. I'm super excited to be hosting this podcast. Thank you to ADHD Ireland for giving me the opportunity to do something that I love. And with that, let's chat. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat ADHD. I'm your host Lauren, or Her Thoughts in Bright Colours on Instagram. Today we're going to be talking about learning coping skills before an ADHD diagnosis. This is a really important topic to discuss, as many of us were diagnosed later in life, many even going well into adulthood before they received a formal diagnosis, if at all. Diagnosis as a whole can often be a privilege, as in Ireland at least it's super expensive, and the waiting list to see psychiatrists to discuss the potential of having ADHD are extremely long. Some of us are waiting years to even be considered for an initial appointment. Having said that, the good news is those who suspect they have ADHD can do a lot of their own research and work on learning coping skills before treatment, whether they're medication-based or counselling and psychology-based or both. ADHD Ireland are amazing for that. They have so much information up on the website and support groups and everything. No diagnosis needed. So today I have here with me Shauna, Siobhan and Rebecca, and we're going to discuss our own experiences with coping skills before diagnosis, whether we intentionally learn these or not. So some could be unintentional or even damaging, such as masking, where we're trying to fit into society's roles of neurotypical world, and other skills can come to us through repeated learning from experiences such as hardships, where we attempt to manage our intense emotions without treatment or assistance. So some also are learned through controlled attention and effort, and these are to make our lives easier or attempt to. This could be habits such as minor breaks throughout the day to make it easier for ourselves to avoid burnout, or even just reading up on ADHD skills and how to cope. So guys, I will ask you to say hi and introduce yourselves if you wouldn't mind.
I'm Siobhan, and I am diagnosed autistic 2.5 years ago at the age of 40, and I'm undiagnosed ADHD.
Thanks, Siobhan. Shauna, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Shauna. I was diagnosed in May of this year, and basically before that I knew there was something, but I didn't really know it was ADHD, and two members of my family were diagnosed with it, and then I just kind of said, hang on a minute, something connects here, do you know what I mean? So I went for a private assessment because I asked the psychiatrist, and they said no, it's not ADHD, it's depression, it's whatever they wanted to throw at me, and I just kicked up a fuss and said no, I'm going to look for it myself. So went and got a private assessment, and lo and behold, it was ADHD plus what essentially they want to say was, I suppose if you can say it, like a learning disability. So what they kind of realised was that I could potentially have dyscalculia as well. So because of that assessment, and because of years of going through everything that I went through, it all makes sense, because I'm brutal with numbers. I can't barely tell the time. I can't add or subtract properly, and it makes sense. And going through it all, and the sort of everything that you do throughout your years of being undiagnosed, and now that you're diagnosed, it's sort of like, okay, so what do I do now? You know what I mean?
Completely.
So, yeah, that's me.
Thanks for sharing. Thank you. You have great insight to it, especially, you know, looking for all this yourself before the diagnosis. So that's exactly what we're looking to talk about today. Thanks, Siobhan, and thanks, Shauna. We'd like to hear from Rebecca as well. If you'd say hi.
Hey, I'm Rebecca. I was diagnosed, I'd say about 3 years ago, and I went through and did it privately because the waiting lists here are like, what, 3 years-ish. So I was diagnosed inattentive ADHD, and I hadn't thought about having ADHD until like maybe a year before I went to try and get the diagnosis. I just kind of thought that, you know, all of the symptoms were just me until actually Lauren here introduced me to it when we met in college, and pointed out a lot of the things that I was dealing with were very similar to her ADHD diagnosis. So I went through, I tried to go through the public route, but was told that it would be, you know, years and years, and I didn't want to have to wait until after college. So I decided to do it privately, and it took, I'd say, about 9 months. And yeah, inattentive ADHD was a diagnosis that I got.
Thanks for sharing, Rebecca. I really appreciate you guys sharing your parts of the story, because that's exactly what we're here for today, is to hear everybody's different opinions and everyone's different journeys. So thanks so much to the three of you for sharing. So I would ask you guys today, I know we sort of touched on it already, but was there a specific point in your life that set off alarm bells in your brain with, you know, big flashing lights for, oh, I have ADHD? Or, you know, was it kind of a process that you had heard about it, seen it, and then it kind of came about that you decided to either get a diagnosis or kind of found yourself in one?
I know for me, it was getting my autism diagnosis. We got towards the end of the assessment, and I remember my the psychologist saying, well, we don't actually diagnose ADHD, but I think that's something you should look into. And I remember, like, even at the time, I was shocked with the autism diagnosis. So when he hit me with ADHD, I was like, no way, because you have in your head the stereotype, you know, bouncing off the walls, full of energy, you know, kind of hyper. And I kind of spent a lot of my life perpetually tired. So the idea of, you know, having all this energy, and I also kind of had that idea of, you know, kind of well, I would fixate on tasks, or I would be, you know, kind of great at, like, once I'm in something, I'm all in and I can, you know, complete it. So the idea of, I think even the actual name ADHD been just so completely inaccurate. So it didn't occur to me. So for me, it was only through actually researching. And I think that kind of happens for a lot of us, is it falls to ourselves to research, and then the public system there, you know, the idea of actually getting it, even an assessment, you know, is just something that doesn't happen enough, and it's so out of reach for a lot of people. So for me, it was definitely that, you know, it had to be an outside person telling me, you know, you should go and see about getting an ADHD assessment. And up until now, because I have my autism one, I didn't feel it was something that I necessarily needed, because whatever accommodations I need through college, or, you know, kind of workplace or whatever, I get through my autism diagnosis. But it's definitely something that I do want to look into pursuing now, because I think even knowing or talking like that to somebody who might have insights on, you know, on the different types, and, you know, kind of getting a diagnosis of like that, whether it's inattentive or whatever, is definitely something that that I do want to kind of look into. But yeah, for me, it was definitely looking back. It's kind of reading about it and then looking back and then going, oh my goodness, yeah, absolutely, that's me.
I think a lot of us would be able to relate to that, Siobhan, as well, because we're kind of put in the face of a psychiatrist or a professional, and they may give us, this label, this diagnosis, or as your case, it was suggested to you to do your research on it and to look into it yourself and to kind of figure out where to go for that diagnosis. And we get thrown that, and it can be such a whack in the face because we don't, there's not enough awareness as well about adult ADHD women. And, like you were touching on, Siobhan, with the kind of bouncing person around the classroom, that we don't all fit in. I think we've all said before, it's the stereotypical, little boy who can't sit still, can't focus. And not having that awareness and that recognition around that sounded really tough, because you were kind of thinking, do I even need to go for this diagnosis? Because is it not just, another way into getting accommodations and stuff? But it's more like, about knowing yourself and being able to do that research and seeing yourself in that. But it's definitely something that we should have had more awareness about, because, it's a lifelong thing. And up until recently, they thought that adult ADHD, wasn't a thing. And, I'm sure it has a lot coexisting with autism, but it is nice to see, the similarities and the differences that make you you. So thanks for sharing. I don't know if anybody else will... Oh, go on.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, just with what you said there about, kind of like it not being a thing in adults. A friend of mine who's diagnosed as a kid, and he convinced he's grown out of it. He's like, oh no, I'm autistic, but I've grown out of my ADHD.
Okay, so that sounds like maybe a bit of a change in symptoms, or maybe a bit of a change in coping skills, for the want of the word for the episode. Because I'm sure by your face you're suggesting it's not possible to grow out of ADHD.
No,
I mean, if we wanted to.
Definitely not for him anyway. It's like really, really obvious.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's funny as well. Because to other people it's totally obvious, and then to us sometimes we're in denial. But yeah, I don't think it's possible to grow out of it unless some new study comes out at some stage that says otherwise. But I'm sure, if we could sometimes, I know we all like have our superpowers and our things that we love about having ADHD, but I'm sure a lot of us would take the chance to grow out of it if we could, for the negative symptoms. But I don't know if you guys relate to that. I know I'm going to go off topic, but the feeling of not really growing out of it, but the feeling of changing in your ADHD, I feel like
it got worse.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, tell me about
worse. That. I do find the older, I'm only 31, like I stay at like I'm in my 50s, but the older I get, I feel like I'm getting worse. And I don't know if it's because I've gotten the diagnosis that I can recognise it more. But looking back at even last year, the year before, probably COVID as well, like there was just certain traits that was just getting worse and worse. And I don't think it's the case of growing out of it. I think as age goes, it gets worse. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't know what you guys feel about that. I'm sure for everybody it's different, but I do know so many people I've spoken to would feel that way, Shauna. And I don't know, even my psychiatrist said to me that, my medication would only be short term because I'd get better. So I don't know what her stance on it is now, but I don't think that, that I should ever be unmedicated, and I don't think it's possible I'm going to get better anytime soon.
What is the term, like, get better? Like, I've had that said to me as well, like, get yourself better. And I'm like, it's not a disease. Like, it's not, I don't have an illness. I have a disorder, but I don't have an illness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not something that I can just take a tablet and then it disappears. And that's what, like, I've had that said to me before by psychiatrists, like, we'll get you on track and we'll do these things and we'll get yourself better. And they're sitting there going, okay, I got myself, and no, it doesn't work like that. It's about how you're going to manage it more so than getting yourself better.
Yeah, I think they're even looking at trying to change the fact that it's a disorder, aren't they? They're looking into changing that terminology because no, it's not a disease, but also, is it actually a disorder? It's a neurotype. We just function differently. Our brains function differently. So they're even trying to get rid of that term disorder. So it is just a case of that's us. It's our brains. It's how our brains work. And like you said, Shauna, it's just actually about finding ways. And like you said, yourself, Lauren, like that's what this is about. It's ways of coping, you know, in the society that we live in.
Like, who has it just said before that the world isn't built for people with ADHD or autism and then like that? The world is just not built for it. And I think that's where the difficulty comes in with, like you said, Siobhan, with disorder. It's, well, what do you call it then? A nuisance.
Yeah.
But it's not really a nuisance though, because I know Lauren said a while ago as well that people with ADHD, we have our traits, and like some of the traits are brilliant. You know what I mean? We can hyper focus. I know I can hyper focus. I'm after doing an assignment in a week. If I hadn't got medication, I wouldn't have done it. Do you know what I mean? Like that, I'm after losing my train of thought now.
You were saying the good things about ADHD.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
promote.
That as well. Yeah, we lose focus as well as hyper focus. But oh, swear to God, but that's the thing with ADHD. Like that, the world just doesn't build for. What was it? Neurospicy people.
Indeed. I did a webinar there with Ken of ADHD Ireland recently about ADHD in the workplace. And I just wanted to say, because we were saying there, Shauna, what's the word for it? If it's not disorder, Ken put it really nicely. He said, it's not a disorder, it's a difference. And I thought that was a really lovely way to put it. It was the first slide introduction. Because Siobhan, you're entirely right. You know, it's just a neurotype. It's just the way we are, and it's not going to change. And like you said, Shauna, as well, it's not about getting better. And I feel psychiatrists sometimes, some of them are lovely, but some of them just want us in and out the door, and they would like to check it off on the list and say, you know, they don't need medication, they're better. But it's not about medication management always. You know, sometimes it's just about medication as a form of treatment, and that's what we're trying to, you know, talk about today. I'm blabbering, but anyway, because the management of it, you know, is what we learn over our lifetime and what we implement, negative and positive, in terms of coping, you know. And I just don't feel like it's a get better thing, to be honest. So, but yeah, I'm gonna throw in a question now. Where are they? They're gone. Okay. What coping skills, guys, if you don't mind, did you instinctively use before you actively tried to learn to manage your ADHD symptoms? These can be positive or negative, and I think it's really important to touch on the negative ones as well if anyone's comfortable, because maladaptive coping mechanisms are definitely a thing. But also positive. I'd like to hear everything basically before you got your diagnosis, what you were kind of dealing with for your own mental wellness.
I have one that I didn't realize was a coping mechanism until I was getting assessed for my ADHD. So she was asking me, like, how frequently do I lose like my house keys or my wallet or like all of that kind of stuff? And I was like, oh, I don't really. And then I was like, I don't have a wallet. And she was like, what do you mean you don't have a wallet? And I was like, oh no, I have one of those phone cases where you can put your card in, because I can never find my wallet if I have one. So I just stopped using one. And she was like, okay, well, what about like your keys and stuff? And I was like, well, no, if I take, you know, I leave my keys and everything that I need for leaving the house in my jacket pocket at all times. And my shoes are always in the same place and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, all right then. And then I was thinking about it, that if one of those things moves even vaguely, my whole morning is off. I can't find anything because I can't look for anything very well. So I just kind of made it that everything was always in the same place, just 24/7. So everything was just in like my jacket pocket or my bag or something. So I could grab those two things and go, rather than finding each individual thing. It was something I just hadn't even realized I'd done.
I think that sounds like the step minimization thing, where like if there's too many steps to one thing, you just got like, I get that. And it sounds like you're adapting to kind of putting things in way less steps than, a neurotypical person would. And maybe they don't understand why it's not as simple as just getting a wallet, but it's never that simple for us. It's definitely about minimizing.
I had to have it as 3 steps, which was shoes, jacket, bag. And if it was any more than that, I'd never make it to my bus. But like my nan, when I lived with her, wouldn't understand that. So she'd be like putting my stuff away where it was like meant to go to her. So I'd go and grab my keys from where I always left them, and she's like, put them on the hook. But I wouldn't even think of looking on the hook because I never put them there. So I'd be there like running around the whole house trying to find my stuff because I'm, going to miss my bus and I'm going to be late and all. And so yeah, every time she moved stuff, it was just a disaster. So it got to the point where like it just had to be left there, or I wouldn't be able to leave the house. I wouldn't have any of my things.
Yeah, completely. I feel like we can probably all relate to that. But it's about like, even I'm sure that was long before diagnosis, Rebecca, that you kind of put those steps in place.
Oh yeah, I would have been like really, really young because when I still lived at home with my parents, I could never find my house key. So my mom got me 3 sets and had like one attached to my bag and everything and one attached to my jacket. And I still managed to lose those. Like they were properly things. And I still managed to lose them. So it got to the point where we just like left one under the mat outside our house, or I'd never be able to get into the house. So yeah, I was probably about 11 or 12 when I started trying to minimize all of the stuff that I'd have to bring with me to just like keep it all in one place, because it just made it an awful lot easier.
Do you feel like that significantly was like a big, oh, okay, when you got your diagnosis, or, are you still discovering ways to minimize steps? Or is it like, okay, I've done all my things now, I've learned this over my life, and this is my ADHD?
It's a bit of both. I was totally shocked that she was considering that to be an ADHD symptom, because I was thinking, oh, it's just because I'm like, never able to remember anything, or I'm a bit ditzy or whatever. And she was like, no, it's not either of those. It's just ADHD. That's just one of the symptoms that you have. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to minimize the steps for different things, because I find if there's like 4 or 5 steps, I just get lost, even if it's something I've done loads and loads before.
Yeah. Do you guys relate to that at all with like this minimizing steps, or would there be another kind of way that you guys would do it?
Rebecca's after reminding me of something in the assessment. And I'm sitting here, I'm laughing myself. So I'm hard of hearing. I lost high frequency hearing when I was 2. So after wear hearing out. And you'd think I'd remember to wear something that'd help me hear. No. So it wasn't until the assessment, we were gabbing away, and the assessment was asking me a few questions, and then she goes, yeah, she never wore a hearing aid. I just had to keep in mind not to put a hearing aid in. You'd think she'd need it. And it's not now until Rebecca brought that up that I kind of went, that's actually another thing that I did, is that like you need something. The thing that you need the most is what you forget. And you don't mean to forget it, but it just happened. Yeah, suffice to say, I still don't wear my hearing aids to this day because I just keep forgetting. So
I was gonna say, like, excuse me, do you think there's any like, I know it's not a quick fix, don't get me wrong, but would you ever consider massive sticky notes, or would you be like me and just completely ignore them and get along with your day?
get on with my day. I've gotten this far, haven't I? I might as well just keep continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd look past them.
Yeah.
Like it,
yeah.
I would be completely unaware that they're even there, to be honest. Or it would be, even if it was really blatantly written in a full sentence, I'd still be like, why did I put that there?
I find with stuff like that, I read the note and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do that. And then I'm like, oh, but I'm going to finish what I'm doing first.
Yeah.
Same note like 4 or 5 times and still not have it finished, because I'm always in the middle of something while I'm reading it, or I'm always like, oh, but I just have to do this one thing first. So it's a bit.
I know.
You know what? even saying that, like, I'm like we had this thing about the, oh, it's great, we're starting a little bit later, I'll get my biscuits finished. I put them in the oven. Lads, I've walked off, they're still in the oven, they're probably burnt now. I completely
Get your bickies.
I forgot they're actually even there. Yeah, like, and I put a reminder on my phone to take them out. No, they're burned now. Yeah.
Oh, do you want to go get them? We'll wait.
I think I might just turn the oven off so I don't burn the house down.
Good idea. Oh, I feel like that shouldn't be edited out.
We just forget. It's the constant bloody forgetting.
Yeah.
And then you forget what it is you were supposed to remember, and then you're sitting there going, like the train of thought thing. Like, I'd be having a full-blown conversation with you, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. Oh, what are you talking about? Like,
literally. Literally. And then we appear rude, or we appear like we're not paying attention at all. And I was saying this to Rebecca, like, I'm sometimes, well, quite often in her car, and one of the things, when I'm not looking at her, I will go on my phone and play a game so that I can hear her better. Like, I genuinely, that's my coping mechanism. I cannot focus if I'm side by side, if I'm not visually seeing something. So I'm like, and I think that's also like the social media age, like, attention spans, but it's definitely like, I've always been like that. But it's, like, it was cute because I was saying to her, like, if you're ever talking and I'm playing a game, please don't think I'm not paying attention to you. And she was like, no, I know you well enough now. That's just my thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like staring, being like, yes, I'm definitely paying attention, when, like, when you're trying to pay attention to looking like you're listening rather than listening. I do that all the time. You're sitting there and you're trying to, like, focus on what they're saying, but nothing actually goes in because you're focusing too much on what, like,
how you look
going on.
Yeah.
Like, you're like really paying attention to them, and you're like, how long before I can say the thing that's been in my head for like 5 minutes? Because if I don't say it now, I'm going to forget. But if I say it now, I'm going to seem rude. So it's kind of like a gamble between the two. So then I just end up staring at their forehead, just like trying to appear I'm looking. But I'm like, remember.
It's like keywords. They're trying to pick out keywords, and you're like, right, okay, they've said this. Right, I remember that. Right, Grant.
Literally. Hi, Siobhan. Welcome back.
Yeah, the smoke is just billowing out of the kitchen, and like,
oh, that's lovely. Oh my days.
They're a little bit, yeah. So
oh, honey.
When the psychologist said to me about, you should, probably look into ADHD as well, and I was like, no, don't be ridiculous. And then something like that happened. Like, on a day where you're actually, taking part in a podcast about ADHD and feeling kind of like imposter syndrome. And then that happens, and you're kind of going to yourself like, no, sweetheart, like, really, you are.
Also, Siobhan, clear case of time blindness there, I think. Because, you're like, I can totally fit in making the bickies.
Yeah.
And then the podcast comes, and then the poor bickies.
Yeah.
But poor you more so. I'm sorry about that.
I'm mostly hoping the smoke alarm doesn't go off now, so I just have to like mute for 10 minutes while the smoke alarm starts going. We'll see how it goes over the next couple of minutes.
We'll take it. Sorry, I keep laughing. Anyway, will we go back so I can stick another question in, because I feel like we're not gonna. This is the most unhinged one I've done, but I think it's gonna be the best one. Sorry.
I was worried about not being able to contribute.
You're definitely contributing. Okay, this one is probably gonna make me laugh because, like, it's not working for us now. But do you think that there is any main coping skills that you guys have that can work well for people before treatment? Okay, I'm gonna say it again.
I'm supposed to be serious.
Do you believe? No. Do you believe? I can't say it. Okay. Do you guys have? Have you guys learned any okay, this is no. Have you guys learned any coping skills that you can pass on to listeners that you feel worked well before your treatment? Guys, that's the most silence I've heard. There's got to be one thing that you...
Clearly not.
No coping skills here. Sorry, I shouldn't have been on this podcast.
I know, but
Okay.
there obviously is kind of little things, you know, like Rebecca, you were saying, like that, you know, little routine that you have going for not losing things, or like this is kind of where I wonder with me, is it kind of like that I developed coping kind of mechanisms because I know what happens with ADHD, or is it kind of like my autism? And do you know what I mean? Because like it's like with autism, it's very much, you know, kind of structure, routine, lists, whatever. So I do find actually that I like, so started back to college, and I know now over the weekend I have to, you know, kind of prepare my clothes for the week, prepare my food for the week, and you know, kind of decide on what it is I'm going to do, because if I don't, then I know I'm not going to eat for a day. Or I'm going to be rushing around, and all of a sudden it's, you know, 10 to 9 and college starts at 9 and I'm half an hour away. So just kind of even kind of really little things like, you know, kind of when you are kind of in the zone, kind of, I kind of feel like practical stuff, you know, get the practical stuff done, the stuff that are absolutely essential that I know I have to do. And then if the rest of it is all fall down, then at least I know the basics sorted.
Yeah, you've really hit the nail on the head there. I mean, ADHD thrives on routine, but it's also extremely difficult to keep the routine. So we're trying to put so much focus on getting the groundwork done. So that, you know, like you said, if everything else just falls to pieces, at least we do have some coping skills there, some learned things. And I feel like we were forced to learn these in a way because, you know, the few you listed are learned from consequences, like, oh, I'd be late, or, you know, I wouldn't be able to eat for the week. And, you know, that's what I guess coping skills are about. But it's a bit annoying that it's the way we have to learn, you know, because sometimes it brings negative coping skills before it brings positive ones. Because, you know, you're forced into adapting, you're forced into learning, and that doesn't always go the right way we want it to. Like sometimes we'd be late 9 times. For me, lose so many jobs before I actually learned that I can only work part-time. And that's a coping skill for me. People that I know in my family would argue otherwise, that I should be working full-time. But I fully know that I can't. But in order to learn that, it took, you know, like a lot of negative mechanisms. Oh, sorry. Was someone talking there?
No, I was just gonna say, like, if it's okay to bring up the negative coping skills before diagnosis. I was gonna say that I don't know if we'd be allowed to mention it, but like drugs and alcohol and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Like
Yeah.
the dependency on that was another mask factor as well. So I found that I drank a lot to kind of hide the fact that I don't want to say hide that I had ADHD. I didn't know I had it. This is before I got diagnosed. But a lot of the times I found that alcohol made me, I want to say confident, but it didn't, because I landed myself in so many situations where I've woken up going, well, that wasn't great, was it? And the same with drugs as well. Like, you know, you're trying to block. Like, I'm not saying that having ADHD is a bad thing, it's not, but it's the emotional side of it as well, of having ADHD, and the depression side of it, and, you know, trying to just motivate yourself each day. But sometimes it's just easier just to go on a big binge and just drink yourself silly, and then I suppose forget about it all. I think that's one negative side about not being diagnosed, is that people do find themselves in situations where they drink a lot or take drugs, or just find themselves in situations and they're trying to figure out why that they do that. And it's not now until I realised I'd done all that because I was trying to figure out what was going on. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think drugs and alcohol play a huge factor. And
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. It's a huge amount of people with ADHD. I think nearly 90% of people with ADHD experience addiction of some form or substance misuse.
and
So
it's the horrible part about it is that when you admit that to a psychiatrist or whatever, and you say to them like, I am dependent on drinking, the first word is don't drink. Like, oh shit, no, sure.
Yeah.
Like, if I hadn't known that, I wouldn't have drank. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out what's going on with me, and they're telling me not to drink. And then you won't tell me what's wrong with me, so I'm gonna drink. It's not funny,
entirely.
it's just
it's
like a circle. You don't know if you're coming or going. The same with drugs as well. Like, and you just it is a vicious cycle to be in. And I do say to anybody that's going through it now or that's not sure if they're undiagnosed or they're going through the process and they were dependent on alcohol and drugs, like you're not a bad person first. You know what I mean? That was your way of coping, and unfortunately decisions are made when you do drink and do drugs. You know what I mean? You can't take it back. You know what I mean? I've that thing, done thing, upset. You know what I mean? I've been in a situation, and it is what it is. So
thanks for sharing, Shauna. I think it's so important to talk about, because, you know, like you touched on, you may go to a doctor and they may tell you to stop drinking, but they don't offer anything in return. And that form of like self-medicating, like I experienced it too. Like I'm an alcoholic, but I'm off drink. But I experienced that too. I was told, yeah, stop drinking, but I wasn't handed any like skills. I wasn't handed any life things. You know, so I was kind of just like, what can I replace this with? You know, and you're entirely right. People aren't bad people for having issues with substances. And it literally is all that we know when we're in it. You know, you don't know anything else. Like at least I didn't. I didn't even realize it was self-medicating. So, you know, it's helpful to know for listeners.
like
you know,
even
your
if it
side of
was,
it.
but even like when you were drinking, it was that like you go out for that night out, and I know I don't highlight blackouts and stuff. I'm not saying like we should be drinking to get a blackout, but that's what I was doing. I was drinking to forget. Do you know what I mean? And so just in that, probably I couldn't even tell you how long a blackout goes on for, what, 5 minutes, but however long it goes on for, it's that 5 minutes where you do not think of anything. And that's what your aim is for ADHD. If you do have ADHD, you want that moment of, I just don't want to think. Like I don't just let me stop thinking for 5 minutes. And I think
I definitely find, because obviously because it's a depressant and that's what it does, it kind of, you know, it kind of does bring everything down a notch. And if you kind of live your life where your brain is doing a million miles an hour, like all of the time, because like I know for me there's a lot of internalizing goes on, so it's all upstairs, you know, but that's going like a million miles an hour all the time, like. So, you know, like I absolutely would have done that with drink as well, where it's, you know, I just want to relax. I just don't want to be on edge, because there's like, I think kind of a lot of the time what's not talked about is like the physical side of it, where, you know, you have back pain, your shoulders are killing you, you're, you know, because, you know, when you are kind of up at, you know, kind of 11 out of 10 all of the time, it takes its toll physically. And yeah, you'll kind of reach a point where you're kind of, especially kind of when you're in that kind of a burnout, you will just do anything just to have the tiniest break. Like I know kind of for for me anyway. And it was again one of those things I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. But the gym, into nature, hiking, getting, into the forest, using my dogs as like, they can't get away from me. They're like little comfort. Come here and give me a hug. Trying to run away from me. That there are all these kind of positive things, or what people say are positive. The problem then is like the gym isn't, I don't have 2 leg days and 2 arm days. I'm in there 6 days a week, and on Sunday I'm rocking in the corner because it's closed and I can't go in. So even the positive stuff can actually
be bad,
end up becoming negative, because then you get injured and you get, and I don't think that that's actually really talked about, because it's all, self-care, exercise, get into the gym, do this, do that. But when you have a propensity to go full force at everything, the positive stuff can actually become detrimental.
When I was younger, I developed an exercise compulsion along with an eating disorder. And the exercise compulsion was, I just have so much energy all of the time. And I was like bullied a lot for the fact that I couldn't sit still. So I just put all of this energy into doing like hours of exercise every day, so that I was too tired to be as hyperactive as I wanted to be, like while I was in school or at home and stuff. So I'd spend all of this time just like making myself exhausted so that people would accept me more. And it was really difficult, because it's really difficult to get past that. Because as you're saying, people say it's self-care, so it's like promoted, because nobody really sees it as a bad thing to exercise too much the way they should.
Yeah. And that seeking acceptance, and also combined with the dopamine seeking of, oh, this is working. I'm not just saying about what you've said, Rebecca, but these sort of things that we put our 100 self into, that's the ADHD 100%. It's just throwing ourselves into something because we're like, oh, this is working. And then it just, like the battery bunny person Duracell, I think, we just literally go until it sometimes becomes a negative coping mechanism like that. Thanks for sharing that. And I do feel like that's, guys, that's such a valid point, because I haven't heard it talked about, about the fact that our positive like mechanisms like exercise or like self-care or socializing, for me, would be the big one. I can never be alone. The positive things literally can turn their heads on us then, and it's sometimes it's, we don't really know when to stop. And I just wish there was more awareness around that, because we're so encouraged to seek these things out, and then people turn a blind eye when we're overdoing them, because it's not your standard very obvious person on the street who drank too much, which could have been me, but it's not the very stereotypical version, so people wouldn't really notice that it's gone the opposite way. Yeah, that was my rant, sorry guys.
It's like really, really bad. So nobody had it with me like exercising all of the time and all that until I landed myself in outpatient treatment for my eating disorder. And even at that point, like family were like, oh, well, you should still be doing some kind of exercise because it's good for you. And I was like, well, it's not good for me because I've also done a whole lot of damage to myself from this. So I need to take a break from it. But even, with the diagnosis and everything, people were still, so pro exercise, with not paying any attention to the negatives that it can cause.
And there's also that kind of like little voice in your head as well, that when you're not doing it, you're kind of beating yourself up about it, because you should be doing this because it is good for you, and particularly when you're trying to find these coping things, and I'd like not want to be all negative here, like, but it can get very disheartening when you're doing all of the, like, an air quoting positive stuff. When you're doing all the positive stuff, you're doing the socializing and you're exercising, you're out hugging trees and you're doing art and you'll have your dogs and you're doing all this stuff and you're still forgetting your keys. You're still, burning your biscuits. There's all these other things are still going on. You're like, oh my goodness, what more can I do?
Mm. It's like the constant chase, isn't it? Or what is it, the dopamine? You're just constantly chasing. It's like what's that rabbit? The dog chasing the rabbit. Oh, what's that?
The rabbit and the hare or something. Dog and the hare.
The greyhound.
The
I
race,
don't know. What?
it's dog races.
That's
Yeah.
that one. I couldn't even think of that. That's how simple it is. Like, but it's like that. You're constantly like the greyhound running after the rabbit. Like there's no end. It just goes in circle and no matter what you do, it's just there. Like you're just constantly chasing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but not to be depressing, but I feel like I'm constantly chasing something. And like you guys were saying, like I will do like for me it's tarot cards, and then I'll do my coloring sensory stuff, and then I'll walk my dogs, I'll have my shower, I'll do all the positive things, and there's still sometimes that feeling of like
No.
incomplete, and like I would feel, if I have a day to myself, I would just feel really alone. So it's just like a weird, trying to replace the coping mechanism that I would do, where I spend 100% of my time around people, and trying to replace that with positive things like Pingu slapping all the arts and crafts down on the table and getting really frustrated because it's not going anywhere. Yeah, I just feel like you just kind of search for something. And my auntie, right, she's mad into the ultras, runs and stuff. She's undiagnosed ADHD, but she's came out now and said she has it, so she wouldn't mind me talking about it. But she's fantastic, and she finally found her niche, which is that. But she also does a combination of sports massage, with being a counselor. So she's like combining every sort of thing that makes her feel good into her life without feeling like she has to do, like a 9 to 5 in one position. So I do feel like she's a prime example to me of like, you just have to keep doing the Pingu thing and pasting things together. But I like, until you find something that feels satisfactory with combined things. But I do still feel sometimes that I don't think I've learned yet, just from having a diagnosis, what the adequate coping skills are,
I think actually what I kind of do find helps, and it probably, I suppose, like a coping frame of mind rather than an actual thing to do, is to just be okay with, actually, do you know what? This is how I function. This is how I am. This is, just who I am and what happens. And, if it's not harming me, if it's not draining me too much, if I'm not hurting myself or others, then it stop beating myself up so much. It's not a big deal if I burn the biscuits. It's not a big deal if I and to, whereas before any kind of diagnosis, I would have been, oh my goodness, I'm stupid, I'm a bimbo, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. So actually just accepting that kind of sometimes we just don't cope is its own little coping mechanism.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
One of my things is I am always late. I'm almost never on time. I'm even late to like hospital appointments, doctor appointments and all that. And I used to make up these excuses for why I was late rather than just accepting that it's a thing. So now if I'm running late with friends, I just text, hey, I'm running late because of who I am as a person, rather than like, oh, I missed my bus, or, there's really bad traffic or whatever. I'm just like, it's me. I left late. I'm going to be 10 minutes late because I left late. I'm sorry. It's just a thing, rather than trying to create all of these excuses and essentially blind people. I find even it's made relationships easier now that I'm just always honest about it, because people don't get annoyed at me for it anymore.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best coping mechanisms possible because, you know, having that honest and open form of communication, just being like, literally, as you said, this is who I am as a person. Like, I've started doing that too. And like, you know, setting boundaries and being like, I actually can't because I have ADHD and that overstimulates me and this is just who I am. So, you know, like, I'm really glad that you've got that, you know, started. I don't know where you are with that, but it's really good that you've got that started. Because the more and more comfortable you are to, you know, say these things to people you care about, I'd say the more accepting, you know, they'll be. So I'm glad people aren't mad at you for it anymore. I'll try not to be.
I don't blame you sometimes. Yeah.
That's just me. That's just me. Yeah, what about you guys? Is there any times where you've just blatantly said, hey, this is my ADHD, I genuinely just completely forgot, or hey, I'm just really actually overstimulated right now, I need to leave the party, or anything like that?
No, I just sort of leave. Yeah, like the two of them are laughing at me.
Yeah,
I'm just sitting here
Irish
No,
going,
goodbye.
I actually love that. I think
no.
that's amazing. Yeah, just I'm over
Yeah,
here.
I
It's
just
gone.
kind of like, what's that, the Irish goodbye?
No Irish
Yeah,
And
goodbye.
yeah.
gone
Yeah,
by.
yeah.
See you later. Like, I've often done it. Like, I've been in the pub or I've been out in places and you just reach a point where you're like, here, no, I'm done. I'm going. See you later. And I just go. But then there'll be times where I stay till the death, but that's the difference. So altogether. But no, I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've had to explain. But then again, I don't go out that much. I mean, I don't really do much to kind of put myself in those situations. I should really go out more, shouldn't I?
Well, I think it's important even to just give yourself the space to leave. Like,
Yeah,
I
like
think
I
that's a
just, yeah.
victory,
Or like if I feel
literally.
myself getting to, like, if I'm with someone and I'm having something to eat, and like I can feel myself drifting off, kind of going like I'm after being tired, I just be like, I have to go home with my dog. But like I'm after ratting myself out now because I say one of my friends will probably listen to this podcast and be like, you little wagon, you. But no, I'm heading off this.
I respect it, honestly. It needs to be done sometimes.
Yeah.
And like forcing ourselves to stay over the time where we're comfortable is just not it's just going to lead to burnout. So, you know,
And
absolutely fair
I think
enough.
resentment as well. I think it kind of can lead to a bit of resentment, you know, kind of like yeah, burnt out, but also like, oh my goodness, like it's too much going out with, you know, XYZ or whatever, and you can start resenting the going out instead of just, you know, going doing your time or whatever and then dipping out. Because I've definitely done that as well, Shauna, where I've just particularly kind of say with college last year, where it's been college night out, I'm driving back to Cavan, I'm not drinking, and everyone is, you know, out in the pub and doing their own thing, and I've literally just left without saying goodbye. Just okay, done now, and just gone.
Yeah, it's
And
like a
just messaged
squish in your
whoever when I
head.
got home saying I'm safe. And that's it.
Yeah. It's mad though because you can feel that sort of squish where you're engaged, and the next of all you're just gone. Yeah.
Totally. Sometimes there's no warning for that, and you're just like, I literally can't even say goodbye. I just
Just
no,
slide down the chair. Bye now.
literally
Gone.
hand going down.
When you're at the pub and you're just like lying on one of the chairs away from everyone because you're just not in the mood anymore. I just want to say, if I randomly disappear, it's because my phone is on 11% and I do not know where my charger is.
That's all right, Bex. Don't worry.
So it just,
We'll expect that you've just it's gotten, you know, you're done and you've done the Irish goodbye on us.
Yeah, particularly after that conversation, just gone.
Great timing, Rebecca. Great timing.
Yeah, I just got the little notification that was like, your phone's on 10%, and I was like, okay, my phone's on 10%. Didn't realize that, so yeah, I have no idea where my charger is.
We'll all be swishing off. What Rebecca goes, and then one of us will start slowly going after.
And I'll just be like, guys,
Lauren just
it's
sitting
my
there
party.
Like, hello.
Oh God. Yeah. No, I'll just be sitting there still trying to focus so that I can get everyone.
Sorry.
Who was here? What were we talking
With the
about?
rest of your 5 or 6 questions that we haven't even got to yet, Lauren.
Yeah, I better throw it in there, guys. I'm just gonna do one more because why not? Actually, I'm just gonna say what we talked about. From your ADHD diagnosis, I'm gone. No, before your ADHD diagnosis, do you feel that coping skills like boundaries and being honest with people was harder? Now that you have your ADHD diagnosis, do you feel like it's easier to set boundaries, be firm, and tell people what you need?
Yeah.
100%. And it's like, it's not, where you'd say like, it's not an excuse, it's a reason. So it's kind of like there isn't the guilt around it now. So it's like, I'm not just actually randomly making these excuses up, because I'm the worst person in the world. There's actually a reason why I'm feeling this way, and this is why I have to put the boundaries up. So absolutely, yeah, 100%. Yeah, reason, not an excuse.
Yeah. Glad to hear. I think that's fantastic.
I think it's kind of something to point to. You can be like, my ADHD is the reason why I can't do this tonight, or my ADHD is the reason why I'm, so overwhelmed, and that's why I'm late and all that, rather than internalizing it and thinking that you're a bad person, or you're just lazy, or you're you can't focus on anything because you're stupid, or any of those kind of things. It's kind of, as you're saying, like a reason, not an excuse.
I really agree. It's about just why certain accommodation, why we need extra things, or we need extra help to get dressed or show up, or any of those things, extra encouragement, or it's just to not be able to go to the thing. But it's also, sometimes I try not to use things as an excuse, but to explain it. So I think I'm getting you guys right, but it makes it a lot easier to be honest with people. But at one stage I just didn't do anything, and then just to myself said that, not ADHD, but I said that it was because of my mental health issues. So now I try, and exactly what Siobhan said, it's a reason, it's not an excuse, or it's a reason, it's not an excuse. Because now I'm like, okay, I do have ADHD and this was the reason, but I need to also try to still be at my friend's birthday or something like that, but may need to dip out early, which is the reason. Anyway, I'm rambling. Yeah, thanks guys for sharing. Rebecca looks so done. She's like, no. You were like this.
I'm totally spaced. I think I've spent too much time trying to I look like I'm paying attention to this, and I'm engaging into everyone, and all I want to do is go around and walk. I just want to pace the room. I've been sitting down.
You can pace.
Thinking about trying to find your charger is what you're doing.
That as well. That is another thing. I should have really owned my charger.
That's okay. It happens. What were you saying?
It's just that I should own more than one. It's not a good idea to have one of anything with ADHD. I feel like you should always have spares.
Yeah, but you still lose the spares though.
100%, or break them.
The car keys, Lauren, I managed to lock my car keys in my car in the middle of work, so that was great. So embarrassing. I had to call work to be like, hi, I'm not gonna be able to go to my next call. Like, I work as a carer, and they're like, oh, why, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I locked my keys in my car. And it was just really embarrassing to have to say that. But I was saying to Lauren about having a spare, and I was thinking, I was like, yeah, and I'll leave it in my glove compartment of my car. And then I was like, why would I do that? Because then I just have 2 keys locked in my car if I did that. Like, what's the point in leaving them somewhere I can't access?
Amazing.
I feel like you should give one to all of your clients, or at least hide it outside their houses, and then give one to your partner as well, and then give one to me, and I can just get the bus out to you. And even then we'll probably all lose them all.
Yeah, I was like, I'll give one to my other half, his name is Bala, and I was like, oh, I'll give one to like Laura and another friend of mine. And then I was like, you've got to be kidding me, the 3 of them all have ADHD. I'm going to call them and be like, oh, do you have my car key? And they'll be like, yeah.
But
somewhere.
No.
I was like, I know I have it in my possession, but who knows where that is?
Oh
At
at least the
God.
toast is there though.
Sorry?
Yeah.
The toast is there, so I mean that's better than nothing, isn't
Yeah, now I have to actually just go get a spare key
it?
at some point, maybe within the next year.
Put an alarm on them all, so every time you lose something, you can just say the alarm.
Oh no, it's
Oh.
brilliant
Will it work though?
Yeah, I suppose.
because usually it's in the pocket, so I'm fine. But I managed to take it. I was opening my boot to get something for the boot, and usually I just leave it in the lock because my boot, you have to unlock it each time you want to open it. It doesn't matter whether or not the car is unlocked. And for some reason, I took it out of the lock, which I never do, and I put it into the boot, took out what I needed, and closed it. And I was like,
Oh,
for fuck's sake.
The worst. It's that moment of like, if I had just, but it wasn't going to happen. But you know, when you just like lock something and you lock something in, like I lock myself out of the house or something, and you're like, 3 seconds ago, I was fine. Like 3
Exactly.
seconds ago. And now I'm, and every thought goes through your mind at once with the ADHD as well. It's like 0.1 second, and your mind goes, but how am I going to get home? And how am I going to tell this person? And how am I going to do this? And
Yeah.
am I even going to get home for dinner? And
your life flashes before you.
Yeah, your future life.
Yeah.
That's
As
it.
I was like, haha, could you imagine if my keys were in the boot? And then I closed it and I was like, my keys are in the
Oh,
boot.
Oh my God,
jeez.
like your subconscious actually knew and you did it anyway.
yeah.
It knew, and I was like, oh, that would be so dumb. And then I'm standing there looking at the boot being like, maybe I'll just leave the car. Maybe I'll just like walk away and pretend I don't own a car. So I don't have to acknowledge the stupidity of what I've just done.
Yeah, I felt so bad for you getting those texts. I was like, no, not another thing's gone wrong with your car. Like
Oh.
it was just, and I know how much that can throw off your whole week. Like, do
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, we so
Hey.
long to recover from these things.
I was having a grand day. I was like, everything's fine. Like the day is going really well. Everyone I'm working with is in really good form. It's brilliant. I did that and I was like, this has been the worst week of my life ever. I was like, I'm never leaving my house again. It's fine.
Yeah, the dramatic does be
Understandable.
really hard though, doesn't it? Like you get so dramatic with yourself when you think like
Yeah.
that's it. The world is ending now. Might as well
Yeah.
give
Actually
myself
thought
up.
of just the best coping mechanism ever, and it's just actually right
Go on.
humor.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Just like I say this to a friend of mine this morning, and it's like, well, the one friend anyway just said that he's going to buy a camcorder and he's just going to follow me around and film me and make a documentary because he reckons he would just make an absolute shit ton of money because like my life is just so hilarious because of like just
I
the
love
amount of
it.
stuff that goes wrong. There's just
The
a
amount of
story
stuff.
every week. You wouldn't believe this. You wouldn't believe this, and it's like, oh, only Siobhan, only Shiv. That's 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 just
Never a
kind of
dull
who you are,
moment.
like. But humor, like actually having like all of this stuff happen, and like while we are talking about how difficult certain things are, whatever, we're actually all sitting there just laughing at ourselves, kind of going, oh my goodness, this is just my life is a shit show, like
And then when you
But
try to explain it to people, how do you find when you try and explain what happened to people and they're looking at you going, it's not that bad, and you're like, I'm pure stressing out, thank you very much. Like
maniacally laughing.
yeah.
I think that is the best one, Siobhan. Like, I actually think you've literally hit the nail on the head. The only thing that gets me by is humor. And I think we can probably, like, us all with ADHD, we're always just having to laugh. Like, it's like either laugh or you cry or you do both at the same time. But at least you laugh at, But like, I really think that is, because I was going to say, like, at the end, like, what is the kind of one thing that we've learned, either before or after diagnosis that just got us through this far in life? And humor is definitely probably the
And an
most
Irish
relatable one.
goodbye.
Yeah. And
Only
also being
Irish goodbye.
kind, being kind to ourselves, guys. We have to say that we do that for the listeners.
But I actually think that's what the humor is. I think that laughing at
Yeah.
yourself, you laugh at yourself, you're laughing with yourself. that's that's kind of
100%.
that's what it is. You're being kind to yourself because you're kind of going, yeah. I mean, it was, like I said, XYZ was an absolute shit show, but is it the end of the
Okay.
world? No. Am I doing my best?
Yeah.
Laugh it off and just be kind to yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, completely.
My friends say that my life sounds like a sitcom because it's just constantly some ridiculous thing happening like every day. It's insane. And some of it sounds so far-fetched. But yeah, they always say it's like a sitcom. So I found that one of the ways that I managed the like getting really stressed by something like locking my keys in my boot is texting them and being like, oh my God, another update on the sitcom script. I've managed to lock my keys in the boot somehow.
I
And then
got that text.
yes, I'm laughing at it, and it's like a joke rather than me standing there being like, oh my God, I'm actually such a moron. If you just paid attention for like 20 seconds, that wouldn't have happened. And rather than all of that kind of like negative self-talk, I'm like, oh, I can update a funny story that's like, yeah, a bit of a pain, but not that big of a deal.
Kind of reminds me of
Completely.
a Mr. Bean sketch.
Yeah. My life is a
Sorry.
mistake.
Is that sitting
I-
in my head? I have to say it out loud. I was like, if I don't say this now, sorry.
Exactly. I was
love
gonna
that.
say, oh, go on.
No, sorry, Lauren. I was just going to say it actually does seem to be like a commonality, doesn't it? It's like such a common thread. Like when you meet other ADHD people, and it's just like our just lives are like. I love that term sitcom. Like comparing it to that. Like every ADHD person I've met, they seem to be the same.
Will never be forgotten anyway. Like, I saw something that I think I mentioned this last podcast, but it was like a long line of lunatics came before us and they're all rooting for us. Like, honestly, because it's hereditary. I guess all my ancestors are dancing around in their grave, realizing they forgot things still. Like, they're like, oh, I wish I could tell her that because I should have remembered that. But yeah, I think my favorite thing about ADHD is the community. And
gas punto.
literally, we all have a great time when we talk. We do. Like,
Yeah.
even if we talk about the negative things, it's always followed by a bit of a giggle. Shout out to Austin and you by singing Menemone on the last podcast.
That was
Cannot believe
hilarious.
that
I
was
was listening
released.
to that last night and I was like, I had to pause it going, I don't even remember that happening. Like, what the hell? Yeah,
Stop. It was good. I haven't listened to a single one and I will not listen to a single one, but
No, it's gas. It is gas. By the end of it, you're sitting there going,
literally.
No, see, I'm all bopping away to it now, so you're gonna go later on and be like cooking your dinner.
Literally. It'll be going around in my head when I'm trying to sleep with all the like negative stuff, but it'll just be in the background going do 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 do. When he's fading out. Sorry, I had something to say. Oh yeah, one little coping skill, guys, on that is apparently it's good to like look in an imaginary camera and just go like, like Rebecca's saying about the sitcom, just not again.
I do that since I started watching The Office.
I don't like that show.
Go
on. Pretend I didn't say that.
I started doing it when stupid happens that I just like stare at my imaginary camera and then go back and do whatever I was doing. And like my boyfriend's always like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, something stupid happened, gotta stare at the camera, keep it up for the sitcom.
It's for the plot.
It's for the plot.
Even better if you combine it with Menemone at the same time. Shrug of the shoulders.
You're gonna be getting a message at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, I actually hate you. I'm no longer your friend. That's earworm now. That's earworm. Yeah.
It's kind of, what was that thing? Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you.
Rick roll. You just got Rick rolled.
And you are welcome. I'm going to bye. I've had enough.
Oh my God, Irish goodbye after that. Yeah, this always happens. This is always what happens.
Sorry.
We
that's,
should- No, I'm very happy with it. Like, it's very
Don't
cute.
accept your apology. No.
No fisticuffs in the ADHD Ireland zone, guys. Remain professional.
what was the name of this one again? Lauren.
What?
Coping skills, that's what it was. I forgot what one I was on.
How dare you? How
I've been
dare
I've
you?
been talking about phenomenon. I'm like, what podcast am I even on?
Right, just to recap on that, we have being kind to ourselves. We have humor, and I'm gonna add in there community because we love ADHDers and we always have such a blast on the podcast. And it's really nice to have new people on every week. It's fantastic. Not every week anymore, every month. But anyway, there's my dog barking. Yeah, so we have humor, kindness, and community. Does anybody else have anything else to add before I wrap it up and go and sing Muppet Show songs to myself for the rest of the day?
I think our catchphrase should be, it's for the plot. Just all ADHD for the plot.
I like that.
It literally is. Can I have another coping skill, guys? No? Okay, the last one is inserting...
The minimization of steps. What's that phrase?
The step minimization. I'm going to be $1 million rich person now with that term.
$1 million.
$1 million rich person.
Dollar bills, y'all.
They just all out for lunch.
And I'm also going to add screaming random song lyrics as a stim when we're home alone, because that is one of my coping skills. And yeah, it's going to be a Muppet Show.
Stimming is a great coping skill.
Sorry?
Stimming is a great coping skill.
Totally. Fidget toys, random noises. I just call my dogs
Does
good
anyone
girls
ever
all
do
day.
the dinosaur walk, or is that just me?
Wait, you mean just the dinosaur hands?
Yeah, because I do find sometimes I walk around, I just be like, whoa. Back down, like, it's like a dinosaur. I don't know what it is, or I just kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but the dog runs off anytime whenever I do it, so it's obviously not a good bloody thing. But it's when I get hyper, I like knowing
That's okay.
I've done too much in a day.
Yeah.
And I'm tired, but I'm not tired. And then I start making stupid noises. I start doing stupid things with my hand, and I start doing this. Can't even think. It's
No, I've seen videos on it. I don't do it, but I have seen videos on it, and apparently the dinosaur walk is a massive ADHD.
grand.
I think there's just us left. I think Lauren has ran away.
No, I just have a surprise cameo.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Bamboozled.
Yeah. Unless
She's in the other room.
That is hilarious. You couldn't have given her a charger, Lauren.
Walk around rather than sitting down. So much.
What? Sorry, Siobhan.
Couldn't have just given her a charger.
Yeah, no, I could have, but I didn't want to be unprofessional. Plus, I knew I could just call her in afterwards. And we covered all the coping skills and the step minimization and whatnot, so she's grand. So I'll get her a cup of coffee. She won't mind.
You can go for a nap then.
What one?
You can go for a nap then after the caffeine.
I did not hear enough. I heard something else.
Do you want to show the girls to them?
Oh yeah, look.
Hi, baby. Oh, the
Tipsy
haircut.
Daisy. Oh, you're very good. Oh. Anyway.
Oh, look at the haircut. All tidy.
They're only babies. Yeah. Sorry guys, that went completely
end.
unprofessional. Thanks for coming on, everyone. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for listening to Let's Chat, ADHD Ireland's first podcast hosted by me, Lauren McBride. You can find us on Instagram at ADHD Ireland and I'm on there too, at Her Thoughts in Bright Colours. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we'd love to hear your feedback and opinions on the topics covered each week. Sending positive vibes until we chat again.